So welcome back to Third Age Reforged and to another battle replay, but before we get underway, a little bit of housekeeping. I think in the next coming days, maybe even just the day after I release this, I'm going to do another channel update video just to convey a little bit of information, because I am coming to the end of my university degree at this point, and after that is over, depending upon what I get put into place after it's done, that may affect the channel in some ways, both positive and negative, depending on what happens. Because obviously if I do gain full-time employment, then I would need to cut back on the amount that I'm able to do with regards to YouTube. But it is looking more and more likely actually that nothing will change, and I'll go over the reasons for that in the channel update video itself, as well as where I intend to go with things, because I know that some people have asked sort of, will I be making a return to the top 10 style of video, and the short answer to that will be yes. You know, in the upcoming 0.97 patch, I will be doing something along those lines. Maybe not exactly the same, but I will be using a similar sort of format, and I will obviously be going through the updates that all the factions have got. So I'll be going through each of the factions again in a smaller way than I have before, but it is worthwhile because obviously several changes have happened. But again, all of this is going to be topics for the channel update video. This is just going to be another replay, a long one as well at 50k frames. It's going to be on the Dwarven Ruins map, which I don't believe I've ever shown before, although I've played on it once, but I don't believe I actually showed it. And this is rather an imposing map, to be honest, but it is, in effect, just sort of a series of roads which lead up to the summit. Obviously these sort of large dwarven constructs, as well as a few encampments on the way up. It is actually going to be a 2v4 as well, so I'd imagine the two armies that are on the defence up here are going to be very, very elite. A combination of both Arthedain and Imladris, so both of them, especially Imladris, have obviously got access to very, very scary armies on high funds. And they will be attacked by 4 other Kingdoms of Men, actually. In fact, we've got mostly sort of the higher tier Númenórean blood Kings of Men on the field today, because we have Arthedain on the defence, but we also have Cardolan, Dol Amroth and Umbar on the attack, and actually Gondor. So yeah, all of the Númenóreans pretty much are out in force. Númenor themselves obviously will be added in the upcoming patch, but let's go through the attackers first of all, and we'll start off with Astlander, who's going to be playing as Gondor. So Gondor, of course, should be stronger in 0.97 in theory. You know, all of the things that are getting buffed in 0.97, infantry is going to be sort of to the forefront more, which obviously Gondor, very much a focus of theirs, and spearmen in particular will be much more useful against cavalry. Gondor spears in 0.96 are already actually viable with their higher tier spears, which sets them apart from quite a few other factions, so they should be pretty damn good at that indeed in 0.97. Obviously still going to be quite defensive, but that's to be expected. That's good. But for here, they do have a catapult, which is good, because obviously, you know, if the enemy dig in, you can make their lives a little bit more uncomfortable with a catapult like this, provided they don't have a ballista to snipe this out with. We do have the Nimlothian Honor Guard, which of all of the high tier Gondorian infantry has always been my favourite, because they're armour piercing. They do have that bonus versus cavalry, and like a lot of the high tier Gondorian polearms, they are actually viable when you compare them to similar units from other factions. The AP is what really does it, but also there it's a very safe place to put your general. Cavalry is not really going to want to charge in unless they get a very favourable rear charge, and they also have those large shields and those big armour values, so it's going to be more difficult for archers to snipe your general out as well if they're in this unit. But in general, very, very powerful unit indeed. We also have some archer companies over here, a couple of units of the upgraded Gondor archers. Both levels of armour upgrade with their plate armour makes them significantly stronger in a skirmish fight. And they are going to be backed up with the veterans of Osgiliath, and as you can see over here, there is Boromir, who is in his sort of travelling fellowship attire, and they also have their armour upgrades as well. So they can essentially form a pretty decent line infantry unit as well when they're out of ammunition. Very much a good hybrid unit here. They are very expensive, to be fair. But as long as you go for a more skirmish heavy build, I would say they're worth it. If they're just sort of isolated and on their own as archers, then they may start to become less worthwhile bringing. But fortunately, it seems as though Gondor has indeed brought a pretty comprehensive skirmish line. A couple of units of Fountain Guard. The Fountain Guards in 0.96.1 for Gondor are a must. They will become a little bit less of a necessity in 0.97, I think, with all of the buffs to various units that Gondor have available to them. But the Fountain Guard will still be very much one of the most powerful units at the centre of the Gondorian roster, so you can still expect to see a lot of them in 0.97. They will just become less of a crutch that Gondor need to bring, and more something that you choose to bring to sort of assert your dominance from an infantry standpoint. Having a look at the rest of the infantry, they've got Citadel Guard. Again, this is an example of a Gondorian spear, which is still viable in 0.96.1 because of the armor piercing. They can essentially be line infantry as long as you're up against a heavily armoured faction, which both Arthedain and Imladris have got good armour value, so the Citadel Guard will certainly fill an important role in the Gondorian army here. Yeah, and this is what really sets them apart from other spears of similar nature. They are very expensive still, but still very worthwhile. Honestly, one of the units to watch out for in 0.97, I feel, because they have the potential to be very powerful indeed. We also have several units of upgraded Axemen of Lasarnak, so Gondor has certainly dipped into the armour upgrades they have available to them, which of course is one of the main draws of being Gondor in the first place. You're able to upgrade your armour cheaper than most factions, and this makes you obviously much tankier. The Axemen of Lasarnak also have AP of their own, so very good Axemen unit, because they are technically speaking just basic Axemen, but when you upgrade their armour, they are tanky enough to be considered probably higher tier than most other units that they should be on the same level as. So definitely something that Gondor can bring, and obviously it is one of their few AP options in melee that aren't spears, so definitely some heightened infantry killing power there. We also have a couple of units of Gondor infantry, again with the armour upgrade, so Aslan are definitely going for the tanky approach. Obviously nothing too special in terms of killing power, but Gondorian line infantry will hold for a pretty substantial amount of time when you upgrade their armour. And then finally, I think, yeah, you can see the general model there. He does blend in a little bit, but his general's going to be in the Wardens of the White Tower, which in 0.96.1 are one of the strongest sword and board units in the game. They will continue to be as well in 0.97, although with the addition of some factions like Numenor, their dominance will be challenged in that regard. Meanwhile, the second attacking army, we have Umbar, played by M1 Breakout, so obviously the black Numenorians are going to be on the field today. Got some Belagai halberds, which, again, AP polearm is going to be very handy. Both Arthedain and Imladris are capable of bringing some nasty pikes, however, so they do need to be a little bit careful with when they decide to go forward with their halberds. Good to see several units of Castamir's Legion, however. Definitely one of the real strengths of Umbar in both 0.96 and in the upcoming 0.97, because they will still have access to this unit. And naturally, as far as line infantry goes, Imladris can better them, but it's still a bit of a power play from Umbar whenever you bring a lot of Castamir's Legion, because you are basically saying, we're going to go heavy on the sort of frontal infantry power, and you're going to have to work very hard and invest a lot of money in order to stop us. They also have some upgraded Abrazani Narduzagar, which are obviously heavy swordsmen, with the armour upgrade as well, so they're a little bit tankier. Yeah, I'd say this is also another good idea, because they will be able to trade relatively well with Arthedain units of a similar type. They will still struggle a little bit against the elves, but at the very least they won't melt in quite the same way that some of the lower tier units for Umbar will. We also have some more Belagai halberds back here, more Narduzagar. Got some Corsair pikemen, which cheap pikes could be the way to go here, because they could just overwhelm them through sheer weight of numbers with their pikemen. And in combination with a couple of the other factions out here on the outside, they do have access to potentially a lot of pikes. Obviously there is the danger that they'll just get shot up by Arthedain and Imladris' pretty comprehensive skirmish lines, but we shall see. A couple of units of Abrazani Nardu Tariq, once again with the armour upgrades, more focused around AP. Not huge skill values to be fair, but the AP is still going to be useful in some capacity against both defending factions. Some Belagai archers, again, good in a skirmish fight with those little bucklers. And then a cavalry presence as well, so we've got some Merc Crossbows who are going to be able to potentially deal with any sort of sally out that Arthedain and Imladris may have, because of course, very much cavalry-centric factions. And his general's actually going to be in the Numenorian Lancers. Now, I would question Numenorian Lancers on this map, because it is very much going to be sort of heavy choke point fighting, so it's unlikely the Numenorian Lancers will get in behind enemy lines to start doing what they do best. But perhaps he just ran out of money and wants to put his general in a sort of heavier cav unit, and he couldn't afford the Warlords of Umbar, which is quite possible. Meanwhile, the third attacking army, we have the sky blue and silver colour tones of Dol Amroth, played by the Stoned Orc. And he has got a couple of units of pikemen here on the front, so he's got the upgraded pikemen actually as well, so they do have the armour upgrade. The Doran Ernil pikes, obviously pretty standard as far as the pikemen for the Western Kingdoms of Men go. But obviously it's still going to be very useful. He's formed up a bit of tactical geometry here with, on the two flanks, he's got some Ethelond halberdiers as well, so a lot of pole arms, but you can see over there that there are some Arthedain cavalrymen just over there as well, so perhaps a good move. Upgraded Doran Ernil archers as well, so they've got the slightly tankier options here, which is probably going to be used to try and skirmish down with the enemy, especially seeing he's got two units of Tirathea marksmen as well, try and absorb a lot of the arrow fire from the defenders. And then several units of the Ethelond men-at-arms with the armour upgrade once again. Dol Amroth's infantry in 0.96.1 is honestly pretty lacklustre. When you compare them to the other Kingdoms of Men, Arthedain in particular are a pretty good example of just doing pretty much everything Dol Amroth do, but a little bit better, with one notable exception, which is in the background over there, which we'll get onto in a moment. But yeah, in 0.97, Dol Amroth are much better, particularly their cavalry, much more well-rounded, and as far as the Western Kingdom's men go, only Rohan can really match Dol Amroth with regards to the cav power they're able to bring. And then back here, of course, we do have the Talon Knights, which probably similar but slightly weaker than the Dismounted Knights of Inumina, so again, the Arthedain comparison, but this is the unit which Arthedain cannot match, which is the Haven Guard, which is where Imrahil are going to be one of the strongest bodyguard swordsmen in the game, you know, alongside the Temple Inquisitors and the Noldorin Blade Masters, and some Javelins as well. Just for good measure, the Belfast Marines, if they get into place, are going to be able to do a lot of AP damage. So, the fourth and final attacking army, we have a faction which I have a real soft spot for, really, which is Cardland, played by Loki Motive. And he's got all of his units in a big column as well, so he's just going to be moving into position. I think this is where the lower tier units are at, so he's got a unit of civilians, which obviously, again, just fodder with their shovels and pitchforks. He's got some archers as well, Miniscarithan archers and Greenwatch Garrison archers, so he's going to be able to engage in trying to skirmish down with the defenders as well, which is good. Dunedain Rangers, which they're not hidden actually, which is interesting. We may obviously see some Castamir's Rangers and some Nimrodel Rangers and some Athelian Rangers from the other armies, which may be hidden and we just can't see them. But the Dunedain Rangers, obviously the body piercing is just as good on the attack if you get into the right position as it is on the defence, so defenders definitely need to be on the lookout for that. Very skirmish heavy army here, however, because we've got several units of archers and also the full complement of crossbows, really. A couple of units of Miniscarithan sharpshooters, they pull out their maces at AP and melee as well as at range, so good dual purpose unit there. And then of course the Minotaur Romet Guardians as well, which pull out their halberds in melee. Not the armour upgrade this time around, but even so, very, very potent crossbow line up there from Cardland. We also have some Thieves of Tharbad, which skillful in melee, but they are obviously quite lightweight with regards to how much punishment they can take, so you do need to be careful with them, but they are potentially very damaging as well. Some Greenwatch Garrison Spearmen, obviously very much fodder in melee. Miniscarithan Spears, obviously the higher armour values are going to help them there. Several units of Greenwatch Garrison Greenwatch Garrison Footmen, I should say, which only 2 units actually, but even so, you rarely see a Cardland army without these guys because they make a very good and very cheap front line. A couple of units of Merc War Chiefs with their Zweihanders, a little bit more skill. And then the 3 elite units, obviously we have the Wardens of Tirn Gorthad, the Tharbad Warhammers and the Dunedain Captains, all of which can increase the morale of nearby units, which of course Cardland often need. So, now we'll get on to the defenders. We can see the Grey Company are actually getting ready to sally out, which could be a bit of a problem for the attackers, but I feel as though they've got enough in the way of archers to just sort of zone the Grey Company out, unless the Dollar Elf wants to sort of send them into the corner and make them hide until the late game, which probably will be the play here, because otherwise those archers are just going to kill them off. So Dollar Elf is indeed going to be playing as Arthedain. He's got some Arthedain marksmen here with the armour upgrades, ready to accept the advance of the attackers. And over here as well, another couple of units of Arthedain marksmen with the armour upgrades. The stakes are in place as well to prevent any sort of cav action, but Umbar are the only ones with any cav, so that should be just fine for them. Some Hobbit Slingers. Again, you don't want to be underestimating the amount of damage the Hobbit Slingers can do over a long period of time. We've seen them used very, very potent, very, very effectively in the past. You know, very potent in the right hands. Dunedain Peacekeepers and Innuminus Gate Guards over here. So again, the skill of the Dunedain, as well as the elite pikes of the Innuminus Gate Guards, very similar, of course, to the Wardens of Tirn Gorthad on the other side. And then several units of Elven Archers as well, Eldar Quinga, Noratino Warriors, backed up by the unupgraded Imladris Guardians of Arsal Ali. So again, thank you to Arsal for sending me this replay. From the perspective of Imladris, once again, he obviously likes Imladris quite a lot, playing them quite regularly, which Imladris, honestly, if you made a poll of all of the most popular factions, I think Imladris would probably come out on top, because they're elves, and as far as fashion goes, I would say Imladris probably have the edge on all the other elves when it comes to how good they look. I'm a bit partial to Lothlorien myself, but I can say, you know, Imladris definitely a very good looking faction. Eldar, Enway, Haru Quinga also backer as well, so layered archers here. It's going to be pretty punishing on the advance, but I don't know whether or not they've got enough infantry to actually hold the enemy at bay. Some Gwythi Myrdain, obviously again AP, very, very solid. Dunedain Rangers, Eldar, Enway, Haru McKeel, as well as some Troll Slayers in the back, obviously the javelins and the very potent axes that they have in melee as well. 2 more units of Innuminus Gate Guards, some Dunedain Peacekeepers, so you can see 3 units of Innuminus Gate Guards is the sort of thing you can only bring when you've got a huge amount of funds to play with, and Imladris have got pretty much, you know, entirely sort of Eldar Enway units as well as Imladris Guardians, so yeah, very elite armies on the defence here. Wardens of the North, more Troll Slayers, more Imladris Guardians, some Gwaithie Arthand as well, very, very tanky of course, and some Eldrenway Harry McKeel as well. And then finally, at the summit of the hill, we have a Catapult, some more Wardens of the North, some more Grey Company, and of course some Dismounted Knights of Numinous. Wouldn't be an Arthedain army without them. The God Helene, which of course, very good in melee as well as at range. And then several units from Imladris Sentries, a huge amount of them actually, as well as some Eldrenway Harry Vital. So very elite armies on the defence. But the attacking armies are no slouches either. We'll see if they've got the manpower to actually stand up to particularly the Imladris forces in melee, because that is a scary Imladris stack. Without further ado, let's begin. 2 units of Grey Company as well. I mean, it might be a good idea to send both units of Grey Company out, honestly, with the uncoronated Aragorn at their helm. Purely because I don't really... Well, I guess they're Rangers, so you could just use them as standard Rangers at the back, I suppose. But if you're going to bring the Grey Company, especially if you're going to go into the red limit for them, you may as well try and make use of what sets them apart from standard Rangers, and that's their mobility. And there are actually some Haven Knights which were hidden in the trees, so they're already coming after the Grey Company, and they want to steer well clear of the Haven Knights, because they will get mulched by them in melee. Meanwhile, the Castamir's Rangers immediately taking a volley, unsurprised to see them come out of hiding, as well as several units of Crossbow Corsairs. See, Umbar's units that can hide are pretty potent themselves, but as the rain comes down, the Grey Company do need to be very careful here, because if these Crossbow Corsairs stop marching, or the Castamir's Rangers, or any archers really, the Grey Company are not the sort of unit which are particularly good at taking range fire. Speaking of which, we can see point-blank shots from the Merc Crossbows here, which only kill off 2 unit models actually, before they themselves also get a huge amount of damage dealt to them. Meanwhile, the Numenorean Lancers do get up to charge speed and do manage to catch a couple of these unit models, which again, these Grey Company are probably bitten off a little bit more than they can chew, because these Umbar Horsemen are going to be relentlessly pursuing them at this point. They're actually shooting once again into this formation. Corsair Blackguards coming out of hiding as well, so a lot of the Umbar army obviously in hiding. But yeah, the Grey Company is just being hounded here by the Black Numenorians from Umbar. This is the General though, so one stray shot could be enough to take him out of commission, which would be very, very unfortunate for him. But yeah, honestly, this sally out has not gone brilliantly so far, especially now that he's come in range of the Gondorian skirmish line. They were very ready for them, the Gondor archers shooting them. And finally, the Black Numenorians are able to catch up, the Numenorian Lancers, catching the Grey Company in melee, and they're having to go right around here, because obviously Gondor have got a lot of options when it comes to dealing with cavalry. The Fountain Guard are here, the Grey Company are wavering. It was worthwhile from Doloralf, but I feel as though he probably went the wrong way, honestly. And again, these horse archers were going to be so easy to zone out. It's only a single unit. Pretty much 3 entire factions were able to sort of focus on dealing with this unit of Grey Company before doing anything else. So yeah, very unfortunate there for Doloralf to have lost that. But he did kill off a few units, I suppose. There are a few dead Fountain Guard, there are a few dead Castamir's Rangers and Crossbow Corsairs, but ultimately not really worth it. But it does go to show actually that with Haven Knights as well, and with all of these Numenorian cabs, not going to be too useful, I think, for the attackers as they begin their advance. I mean, this should be a way into the settlement over here, but I'm not sure it is. I think encampment and the Stone Arch will actually potentially block Umbar's advance, or will it? I mean, you'd think you'd be able to get through there, but you might be wrong. I'm not sure, but anyway, it's going to take a little while now, I think, for the attackers to actually get their armies into position and start laying siege to the actual ruins themselves. So I will make a little cut here, and we'll rejoin when the attackers are assaulting the positions of the defenders. So that didn't actually take as long as I thought, as Locomotive has decided to send forward his civilians, and interestingly enough, this might be a very worthwhile endeavour, because these are mostly skirmishers. The closest unit of infantry is way back here in the Dunedain Peacekeepers, so I mean, you can see it's a very imposing looking defence with the Elven archers on both sides, the Arthedain forces guarding the road. You can already see that the Hobbit slingers going about their grisly work. The Mercenary Crossbows from Umbar have also been sent forward. Now, the Merc Crossbows are really not very good at all dealing with arrow fire, and they have very short range as well, so they're going to have to get in range of pretty much the entirety of these defensive archers. It may be that the defenders are a little bit reluctant to use a lot of archer ammunition on this one unit of Merc Crossbows, but they don't really have much of a choice, because if they don't, the Merc Crossbows weaponry is actually very potent. If they get into position, a lot of armor piercing damage on those small crossbows. Meanwhile, the civilians are very tired after sprinting all the way over here. That's unsurprising, but I think the attackers are all going to have to go up this one road, but the defenders are not guarding this road, so fortunately for them, they actually have 2 options. They can go up either road and start pressuring both of them. If I was the attackers, if I was one of the attackers, I would recommend that we split off 2 and 2, go up each side of the road and then meet in the town centre at the back. Because again, just going up one choke point plays into the defenders' hands a little bit, allows them to focus their forces, and as the attackers, particularly when you have a large numbers advantage like this, you want to try and pull the defenders apart as much as you can. And admittedly, only 2 roads is not the most, but it's still better than just going up the one road. I mean, you could try and smash through with sheer numbers, I suppose, but the defenders are going to see that coming from a mile away. At least they should. That would be my hope. Norotino warriors are sort of perched up here. You can see the civilians are still very tired, just sort of waiting, and the Hobbit Slingers are actually being used. The Hobbit Slingers have a very low missile damage, to be fair, and they actually have a fair amount of ammunition as well. So it's actually not the worst idea for these Hobbit Slingers to be throwing their rocks into the civilians, getting some sort of use out of them. The civilians, of course, not the most high-profile target, but at least it will mean the civilians aren't taking up the more valuable elven arrows and, well, arrows of any sort, really. You can see all those Eldar Gwinga and the Norotino warriors just waiting for a more substantial assault to get underway. As we can see over here, the Gondorians are sort of slowly but surely moving into position. The Mercenary Crossbows are also waiting back there, but I think, again, it might be time for another cut, because the civilians are not really going to accomplish anything by just sitting here. I mean, they could try and charge into it in melee, but they'll just be driven off by the Dunedain and Elves waiting in behind the Hobbits and the Archers. So I think we will make another cut until the attackers are ready to make a more genuine assault. So again, not a huge amount of time passed. The civilians were actually broken off as a result of the Hobbits pounding them with those pebbles. But also the Merc Crossbows came forward once again and were immediately shredded by the Elven Archers that perched on the hills. But we will be seeing the beginnings of a skirmish fight, I think, and that will be because Umbar are moving forward their Belagair Archers. But with the sheer volume of Elven arrow fire that's coming their way, even a unit which is designed for getting stuck in at archer to archer is not really going to help them out here too much. They need certainly more than just this one unit. Also, what slightly worries me is the fact these Corsair Pikemen are coming forward, because Corsair Pikemen really don't do well under arrow fire, and they're certainly going to be taking stray shots and even focused shots, I would imagine. And this is going to really rip into another one of Umbar's infantry units, which the defenders will be most happy about. The civilians are routing again, really not in any sort of condition to fight anymore. We can see also the Stone Dwarf moving forward with some Doran Ernil archers, Locomotive moving up some Miniska Rithlan archers. This is good. You know, the sheer volume of cheaper archers that the attackers have going to make life a little bit more uncomfortable for the defenders, you would imagine. This one unit of Belagair archers, however, has already taken a pretty substantial amount of damage as the Elven archers continue to bombard this position. The Arthedain marksmen in the middle also doing their thing. A lot more men starting to come into the settlement now, though. You can see that there's plenty in reserve as well, as Gondor is still making their way over here. Locomotive is actually heading up this way, so yes, they are splitting up, it looks like, a little bit at the very least, as the Doran Ernil archers from the Stone Orc and Dol Amroth will be joined by some of the forces from Cardlin as well. Start putting pressure on this angle as well. There's only a single unit of Arthedain marksmen over here as well for the time being, so the attackers will have a pretty substantial archer advantage over on this front as the rain continues to pour. You can see here the Hobbit Slingers are moving into position to actually add their own damage to this this skirmish fight as well, and the Belagair archers will most certainly not like additional fire coming their way. You can't really track the pebbles. They do exist as projectiles, but they're so difficult to follow with the eyes, unlike the thrown axes and the javelins. Meanwhile, the Hobbit Slingers are taking pretty much direct fire, which is going to be bad for them. You can see already here the Norotino warriors starting to dig into the Belagair archers even more. Also some spearmen and some more archers in the background there from Cardlin, just in case they want to start pushing forwards. What have we here? Miniska Rithlan, oh no, not Miniska Rithlan, Greenwatch Garrison spearmen are moving forward. Not the sort of unit you want to go after with your archers, to be honest with you. They are pretty much ideally suited for absorbing arrow fire. They've got pretty decent shield value, honestly. And they're also terrible in melee. Like, everything pretty much will beat them in melee other than the lowliest of orc fodder. Really, they're just there to sort of add a little bit of mass to the Cardlin front line. Ever since the days of Vanilla, when they were the Bree Militia, they've never been particularly fantastic, if we're being honest. You can see the Arthedain are pulling back at this point, and it may be that the defenders are going to try and use the hill to their advantage here, try and make it so that all of these skirmishers don't have the easiest shot. But with all these pikes around, it is going to be a bit of a conundrum, I think, for the defenders to try and solve, because the attackers, all they really need to do, use up all their ammunition, and then charge in with their superior numbers on the softened up defenders. The defenders will have to get a little bit more creative, I think, with how they choose to position themselves. This, however, you can see the Greenwatch Garrison Spearmen is still relentlessly pursuing the Arthedain Marksmen. With the Dunedain Peacekeepers attacking them in the side, I can't imagine that they're going to last too much longer and will probably break off. Which again, these small victories for the defenders will add up over time. The attackers can't afford to get too complacent, even if with their numbers and their army compositions they should be well suited to win this fight. The Gwaith the Arthand are also coming into position, so yeah, these poor peasants that have been outfitted with kettle hats and spears from Cardland are unfortunately going to find themselves hideously outmatched here by spearmen of genuine quality. Yeah, and they're routing. That doesn't surprise me at all. They're going to take more casualties on the retreat. They may come back though, because that's a fairly hefty unit that's still there. That's the Greenwatch Garrison archers also getting into position. But as much as these archers were also pursued by infantry units on this side, now a counter-attack could happen. The Gwaith the Arthand and the Dunedain Peacekeepers could charge down the hill and start attacking these archers, and I think Cardland sees which way the wind is blowing, because he's going to retreat his Greenwatch Garrison archers. And you can see there that some Miniscarithan Spearmen and some Ethelon men-at-arms from Dol Amroth and Cardland are on the way forward, but relentlessly pursued here by the Gwaith the Arthand, but again they decide better of it and are going to retreat those units. The archers getting back into position as well, so a game of cat and mouse here happening once again. The Dunedain Peacekeepers charging in, and the Greenwatch Garrison archers thinking it was safe. See the Dunedain charging down the hill towards them. Let's see here. Miniscarithan Spearmen are coming forward. Those Dunedain Peacekeepers are taking some direct fire, but shields will save them a little bit from the front. More than enough to get them into melee. None of these archers are equipped to deal with Dunedain Peacekeepers in melee at all. So this is going to be relatively easy kills that Arthedain are able to pick up here. And the Dunedain Rangers and Arthedain Marksmen are getting into position now, so this big clump here could be subject to some body-piercing arrows now. Indeed they will be. The Dunedain Rangers, obviously, real killing machines, as all Rangers are when the blobs start to form. The Arthedain Marksmen are also going to help out, and the Gwaith the Arthand are now going to help the Dunedain Peacekeepers, because defeat is almost a certainty. As more and more infantry starts to pour forward, the Miniscarithan Spears and the Ethelon men-at-arms, these Peacekeepers are going to need more support. But I would think that with the Ranger arrows, they should be just fine, especially with those Imladra Spears on the way forward as well. It's a good opportunity to get a lot of kills here for the defenders. Meanwhile, what's happening over here? Gondor has joined with Cardland and with Umbar to try and skirmish with the enemy. The Corsair Pikemen have actually charged forward as well into melee, which again is a bold choice. Unsupported, cheap pikes like this can easily have their phalanx buckled, and unfortunately against, again, the Dunedain Peacekeepers, quality spearmen, that is what's going to happen. Spearmen as a sort of a pike buster, that's one of their main goals in 0.96.1. There are some more Arthedain Marksmen as well. But so far I think the attackers can afford to be relatively relaxed, because the onus is really on the defenders to try and deal with this archer pressure that they have, potential archer pressure at any rate. Meanwhile, it's annoying that those archers force the camera to go up and over it like they're solid buildings. But the Dunedain Rangers and the Arthedain Marksmen over there, suddenly this fight is a lot more even with the Gwaith the Arthand on the front line. They will stand and fight for a long, long time, one of the tankiest units in the game. But it is all spearmen this, so the spear malice is coming into effect for all of these units except for the Ethelon men-at-arms that are on the attack. It is worth saying as well that the attackers are trying to push uphill, which will make their fatigue go down quicker. What do we got here? Greenwatch Garrison archers and Doran Ernil archers just loitering with intent in the background. Merc Warchiefs, it looks like, were the target of those particular volleys over there, but defeat seems certain for this initial wave of infantry now that the Imladra Spearmen are on the front line helping out their Dunedain allies. You can also see that those Greenwatch Garrison Spearmen did come back, but now they're immediately routing again as once again they found themselves hideously outmatched. And this time they won't come back, I don't think. I think enough of their unit has been killed that they will just run to the edge of the map at this point. Victory seems certain, only a fool could lose this battle. A few of the Gwaith the Arthand are starting to drop away, which is understandable considering the volume of troops are actually fighting, but with the Dunedain Peacekeepers backing them up, who are actually a little bit battered and bruised at this point, they should be just fine. But the problem is, of course, as soon as this front line starts to falter a little bit, the Stone Dwarf has got another unit of Ethelon men-at-arms that he can simply send in. So once again we're going to be seeing archer-to-archer combat. Still those Troll Slayers. There's a lot of units which the defenders still have in reserve, a lot of elite units. But it's good to see one of the really elite units on the front line from the get-go here with the Gwaith and it shows that the defenders are not going to be shy about using their elites where it's necessary. Are those Miniscarith Spearmen going to try and push through? It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him. It doesn't look like it. I mean, they're trying to sort of get as many of their units into melee as possible, I think. The Peacekeepers, however, are standing firm despite taking a fair amount of casualties. The Gwaith also. It's going to be a slow process to try and wear them down in melee. They don't necessarily get their killing done too quickly, but very, very difficult to kill. Meanwhile, these Gondor archers are shooting. It looks as though these Arthedain marksmen are out of ammunition, so they're going to be the defenders are going to be all too happy to see these guys absorb a little bit of arrow fire, waste a little bit of those attacking archers' ammunition. There are, however, some Greenwatch Garrison footmen coming forward, so some cheap Cardland pikes. Looks as though they've already been through the meat grinder, however. They must have been shot up by some archers, and indeed, you can see over here the Eldar Quinga, sort of in this, pretty much this perfect firing position over here, doing a lot of damage to those Cardland pikes. However, the Doran Ernil archers have now turned around, shooting into the Eldar Quinga, and this is one of the few units in the Imladris lineup which has poor armour value, so certainly not going to enjoy being under this sustained arrow fire for any length of time, you would imagine. You can see here that there is a little road, which does complicate things a little bit. I mean, I don't think the attackers can actually go up here, so I think that these Eldar Quinga are really just sort of isolated a little bit, but again, the Greenwatch Garrison footmen are now also being attacked in the rear by Arthedain marksmen, so this very depleted unit of pikes at this point is not in a position where pikes are going to be ideal because the formation is all over the place, and these archers, they're going to be able to kill them off. You can see here that they are already routing. So that's another individual unit that the attackers can chalk up to being gone. Cardland, the ones that have taken the most casualties thus far. Another unit of Ethelon men-at-arms are coming forward at this point, which is probably going to be needed. I mean, you can see here that the Miniscarith Spearmen have held pretty resolutely in the middle. A few battles ago, we saw the heavy Goblin Spears do a similar thing, where they just sort of held for a long period of time, even if they didn't necessarily get a lot of damage done. They still allowed the rest of the armies to do their work. And now more reinforcements coming forward. Greenwatch Garrison footmen, also a much healthier unit, and this is a position where they should be much better, actually. Helping out their line, getting their pikes down into their phalanx formation. I think now the Gwaith are going to try and retreat, actually. Or are they? I think these Arthedain marksmen that are out, they're just going to reform, and the Arthedain marksmen that are out of ammunition are going to charge down the hill to try and shore up this defensive line. You can see here the attackers with all of these banks of archers just shooting into them as they advance down the hill, pulling out their side swords. Defeat is a distinct possibility, so even still the Gwaith Arthan proving themselves to be just monsters in melee when it comes to just holding the line. Here are the reinforcements, the Arthedain marksmen shoring up the line with more numbers. Any arrows that they take that the Gwaith Arthan avoid will also be seen as a minor victory for the defenders as well. Another rout there from the Cardland forces, and this is where Cardland's low morale does hurt them a little bit in these very grindy fights where it's quite punishing. Unless you have a morale buffing unit nearby, which obviously Cardland probably a little bit reluctant to use their elites this early on. But with the Gwaith Arthan over here, you could certainly, I think, justify it. It would obviously draw the attention of a lot of the defensive archers, and possibly javelins. But I think it'd probably be worth it. Maybe get a unit of Tharbad Warhammers on the front. That'd be exactly the sort of thing that you would want to use to try and crack through these Gwaith Arthan a little bit faster. Dunedain Peacekeepers are much more depleted now, and I don't think this unit of Arthedain Marksmen is going to cut the mustard when it comes to keeping this line intact, even if more Arthedain Marksmen are in the background over there trying to hold the line. Meanwhile, a pretty hefty assault over here as well. Abrazani, Nadu Tariq and Gondor infantry coming forward. The Dunedain Peacekeepers are holding. The Eldar Quinga are also on the front line. The Arthedain Marksmen and Hobbit Slingers still firing away. But there's more Gondor archers on the way forward, and that is the problem, I think, for the defenders face. The fact the attackers have brought pretty much universally a substantial skirmish force, which will allow them to keep up the pressure over a longer period of time. Because in melee, that Imladris army in particular was very scary, so the attackers are going to have to make good use of their archers. Meanwhile, you can see the Gondor infantry. With the upgrades, the Gondor infantry looks pretty good as it is, but I think with the updated unit models in 0.97 that's coming up, Gondor look very, very nice indeed. Gondor as they should be. They look real sleek. A lot of their higher tier units have got those black cloaks as well, which look very, very nice indeed. See over there, the Abrazani Nardu Tariq defeat seems certain, and this is the problem the Nardu Tariq have. They are very focused in what they're all about. They're good at being in a grindy fight with heavily armoured units, but the Dunedain, they trade in their armour for a higher level of defensive skill, which is exactly the sort of thing the Abrazani Nardu Tariq want to avoid for the most part. And the Dunedain Peacekeepers, even though they're spearmen with the Malus, easily able to deal with the Nardu Tariq. And also I think they were getting a little bit of help from the Hobbit Slingers before they retreated as well. The marksmen are in the background over there, but the Gondor archers are in position once again. Crossbow Corsairs are there as well, but they've been very much focused down by the defensive banks of archers. But yeah, so far the defenders, this front line, is holding up very nicely. Meanwhile, Arthedain marksmen over here, still firing away, plugging away at the attacks as they move forward. The Gwaith Arthand are looking a little bit thin on the ground at this point, but they're still alive. And now the Dunedain Rangers from Arthedain, presumably they've used up all their ammunition, which is worrying actually, because there's certainly not enough dead bodies down here to justify the Dunedain Rangers using up all their ammunition as it stands, but we'll see. Especially seeing as Imladris don't have access to a ranger unit. That was going to be Arthedain's primary purpose in this fight, you would think, but they do still have a Grey Company unit at the summit. Yeah, the announcers not fancying the defenders' chances, as they shouldn't in a 4v2. But the Dunedain Rangers are holding. Doran Ernil archers are also being committed forward to the front line as well, so more skirmishers that are out of ammunition. Those Arthedain marksmen just sort of waiting in position. Merc War Chiefs very depleted, but they've also been charged forward with their round shields and Zweihanders. I don't feel as though they're going to be too concerned with this, however, because the defenders are going to be able to hold for a little bit longer yet. I mean, I feel, yeah, you can see that there is routing happening. Although it's routing from the defenders actually, so that's not good at all. So yeah, the attackers are going to be able to bust through here. The Gwaith Arthand, at this point only 11 of them remaining, they're just going to be overwhelmed. The Dunedain Rangers are not going to be enough to save this front line. The Illuminous Gate Guards are coming down the hill, but it's a bit, as you know, those are Imladris Guardians, but it's a bit late. I mean, I feel as though you should always see which way the wind is blowing in a battle, and if you see that a front line is falling apart, you need to make the active decision of whether to abandon it or reinforce it quickly. And I feel as though these reinforcements are going to arrive too late to really be worth it. More archers that are out of ammunition being committed forward now. I mean, the Imladris Guardians could well be enough to hold this front line for a little bit longer. There's more arrow fire being poured into these men down here as well. But the Miniscarithan archers in position, Ethelond Halberdiers. So far, I think that the attackers will be more pleased with how this engagement has gone, because they simply have more manpower to burn. Well, over here, the Gondor infantry doing okay, but defeat seems certain. The Dunedain Peacekeepers are still holding. It looks as though more Gondor infantry have been pushed forward. The Dunedain Peacekeepers still relatively comfortable, but the Noratirno warriors doing their thing. Obviously the main thing which sets them apart from the Eldar Quinga is the fact that they are actually stronger in melee, so they should be a little bit happier than a standard unit of archers would be to be facing line infantry. Also, the Dunedain Rangers are here, but good awareness from the attackers. They immediately see the Rangers, and they're immediately going to be trying to focus them down. But the Rangers are going to scythe right through that Gondor infantry and immediately send them routing, so obviously the body piercing can be a real problem for morale. When you don't have morale buffing units nearby, then that is going to send the Gondor infantry routing. Noratirno warriors are probably going to pursue, maybe try and get into the side of this healthier unit of Gondor infantry, which of course the Dunedain Peacekeepers are still holding in place. Noratirno warriors are maybe going to try and go after the archers, although it looks as though they are going to try and rear-charge this Gondor unit over here, but they're still eager. So they're probably not going to be able to break them as quickly as they would like, and they're probably going to get some arrow fire in the back as well from the Gondor archers that are nearby. But the defenders much happier about how things are going over here, I would imagine. It's over on this flank where things are going a little bit more favourably for the attackers. The Ethelond Halberdiers are moving forward. The Imladris Guardians have stabilised this front line, and we've got a more organised look to this line battle over here now, which will suit the defenders a little bit more. The Imladris Guardians, of course, a very strong unit of line infantry, without the armour upgrade, so they look a little bit plain, but even so, very, very powerful. We watch Garrison archers. The Thieves of Tharbad are on the way forward, which will be a very juicy target. The Warns of the North are over there now, but with multiple HP and good armour values, it's going to be a big ask for low tier or lower and standard tier archers to actually burn through those hit points. Thieves of Tharbad on the way forward, however. Ones of the North are firing. The Illuminous Gate Guards are on the way down now, so defenders are eager to hold this choke point. That is a very awkward position for that archway. Yeah, I mean, the Imladris Guardians, they're starting to take damage. The Merc War Chiefs are just to the side of them, starting to wrap up the line. And with the Thieves of Tharbad also reinforcing from the front, a more skillful unit, the Imladris Guardians are in a little bit of trouble here. And once again, I feel as though these reinforcements are coming just a little bit too late. They should have sent down the Imladris Guardians and the Illuminous Gate Guards together, I think. And it is worth saying that, yeah, they were probably scared of the archers, but if that's the case, don't come down here at all. Try and coax them into using their ammunition on a unit which, you know, is less important to you, like the Arthur Day Marksman. They're going to try and shoot into the Rangers now, I think, which, again, very good choice. The Cardland Rangers are in such a position where these Illuminous Gate Guards could be ripped asunder very, very soon, if they can get into place quickly enough. The Illuminous Gate Guards are shoring up that front line for the time being. The Ones of the North are also firing away. And yeah, these Dunedain Rangers obviously going to be the target of all those archers. They need to kill them off very, very quickly. Oh, that's the wrong target. No, it's a disaster. They're trying to shoot up the to the top of the hill, but they should be shooting into this infantry because they'd rip a Illuminous Gate Guards apart. They'd hit pretty much everything on the way through as well. Instead, I think that they're going to be killed off before they can really accomplish too much, because the Heru Quinga and the Warns of the North will be trying to kill them off. Yeah, wrong choice of target there, unfortunately, from Cardland. Meanwhile, over here, the Gondor infantry starting to make a little bit more progress. The Arthur Day Marksmen and the Norotino Warriors fighting. This unit of Dunedain Peacekeepers is finally being worn down by the Gondorians. There's also a few forces from Umbar still in there. Crossbow Corsair banner carriers. But now, that unit of Gondor infantry is breaking, and that's going to allow more Norotino warriors and more Arthur Day marksmen to get into melee. So certainly the defenders have been quite frugal with what they've decided to commit forward so far, but in a good way. They haven't needed to commit forward too much on this side yet. The Arthur Day marksmen are chasing all the way. Going to try and get into these archers over here, but there are Nardu Tariq on standby, and the Nardu Tariq will easily be able to defeat Arthur Day marksmen in melee. They are going to get in here. They could break this unit of Balagaya archers. Are they routing? No, they're just going to retreat. I question the point of coming down here at all, if not to sort of kill off some archers and maybe prevent some reinforcements from getting into position. Because the Nardu Tariq will now be able to reinforce the Gondorians up here, but the Gondorians are wavering, and with a rear charge, that could be all that's needed to break them off. Their morale actually increased when they got rear charged by archers. Absolute madness. Reinforcements are on the way as well. Nardu Tariq, more Gondor infantry. So no rest for the weary from a defensive point of view. Here come the Nardu Tariq, and that's probably going to be enough to kill off the Arthur Day marksmen, to be fair. So yeah, the Gondor infantry have been saved. Let's go and see what's happening over here. More Arthur Day marksmen in melee. Wards of the North, Heru Quinga are actually hiding. But the Illuminous Gate Guards and the more and more Arthur Day marksmen have actually saved this front line. To the extent, actually, that the attackers are going to have to sort of restart over here. The Minister Rithlan sharpshooters are getting into position. Which this unit in particular is going to be... it's going to be nasty. You know, they're going to be able to do a lot of damage if they're used in the correct manner. And by correct manner, I mean not trying to kill off the archers. You know, don't bother with that. I mean, you could go for the Wards of the North, but really, you have an ideal shot into this front line over here, and you could do a huge amount of damage very quickly. And as the attackers, if you deprive the defenders of a big chunk of their manpower, victory is almost certain to be yours. They're also sending up some upgraded Doran Ernil pikes, but they too are just coming under huge amounts of arrow fire over here. The Heru Quinga are now up there in the Warns of the North, so more elite archers as well. So any arrow that finds its mark is going to be pretty much a confirmed kill, especially where the Warns of the North are concerned with those AP projectiles. Warns of the North are actually getting into melee now, so they may have used up their ammunition, pulling out their long swords. Which, I mean, they're a very good unit in melee as well, so more elites. It's not just out of ammo skirmishers that are on this front line. The Numinous Gate Guards and the Warns of the North, very, very potent units in their own right. Doran or pikemen marching into position as well to maybe try and give this front line a little bit more longevity from an attacking perspective. Scarith and sharpshooters are in place, but what are they going to shoot at would be my question. The Troll Slayers, perhaps? Or will they do what I want them to do and shoot into that front line? It's impossible to tell because I think he's cancelling his shots and retargeting. Now they're reforming. Go on, crossbows, you can do it. The enemy's right there. Load up some bolts and shoot. Because your front line desperately needs it at this point. If not for those pikes, it would be crumbling. Here we go. And they're reloading. At least a few of them are. Herriquinger is still hiding as well. Yeah, they are shooting the front line, but I think they're going after the Arthedain marksman, which is a strange one. I mean, they do have a clean shot on them. Even so, I mean, having a look further back here, we do have some Tirithea marksmen as well. Potentially trying to give a little bit of support, but let's have a look at what's happening over here. So yeah, this front line now is looking where the attackers are more likely to break through. The Gondor and Umbar push going a little bit more smoothly now. The Gondor infantry finally yielding some results. The support of the Abrazani Nardu Tariq now that the Dunedain are gone, very much appreciated. The Gondor archers are also up here, sort of making sure that the attacks have got some sort of foothold on this higher plateau. The Hobbit Slingers are over here. Again, I'd be very interested to hear how many kills the Hobbit Slingers got over the course of this battle, because once again they've proven to be a real annoyance, getting a few kills here and there, and that does add up. But this is going to be a hard front line to break down. A combination of Anubinas Gate Guards and Imladris Guardians is a very potent front line indeed, with the support of those Hobbits, with the support of some Arch units as well. Dunedain Rangers. This attack is going to crumble pretty quickly. The Abrazani Nardu Tariq. Abrazani units got pretty decent morale as well. But when they're faced with this sort of front line, not exactly the sort of thing they're going to enjoy. And Imladris Guardians are nearby. Dunedain Troll Slayers. Herriquinger in the background. I mean, it is a fairly thin defence. And this is also a pretty worrying sight. The Castamir's Rangers are over here. They're going after the Dunedain Rangers. So we have a fight between Rangers over here. And I think the Castamir's Rangers got the first shot off, and they're also in a looser formation, which means they will probably win this fight overall. Any arrow that lands is going to hit at least 3 or 4 of these unit bubbles from the Dunedain Rangers, which the defenders can ill afford to lose a second unit of Rangers without a huge amount of kills. Is this a way they get in? I mean, the veterans of Osgiliath getting into position. I mean, I think this is a dead end, but they will still be able to shoot the Dunedain Rangers. At the very least, though, when it comes to the defenders, these Castamir's Rangers will now not be all that effective at trying to break apart this front line that they've set up. Here comes the Gondor infantry, setting up for an assault. It looks like the Axemen of Lasarnak are nearby as well. Dunedain Troll Slayers, meanwhile, going to get ready to loose their Javies. Obviously these Javies are going to be ideal at dealing with Gondor infantry. Maybe you could make the argument that it's not really an elite enough unit to justify using the Troll Slayers Javelins against, but it will sort of coax them into coming into melee more quickly. As the Dunedain Troll Slayers wriggle away, the Gondor infantry is going to collide headlong with that front line. The Hobbit Pebbles once again being thrown at these Gondorian soldiers, and I think they're trying to push through, honestly. I think they're still going for the Troll Slayers, but it's a real meat grinder this for the Gondor infantry. They're already shaken. Some of them are getting through, which again is a testament to how thin this defensive line actually is. But the few units that are getting through, I mean, the Dunedain Troll Slayers, with those axes in melee and multiple HP, easily going to be able to send them packing. They're already shaken. Castamir's Rangers in the background over there. Surely they break. Surely this is going to be the end for them. And again, I'm questioning actually why the attackers are not coming forward with a little bit more aggression at this point. This is a thin front line. If they come forward with a lot more men, they could do a lot of damage. Axemen of Lasarnak waiting down there, Balagai footmen and halberds. Exactly the sort of thing you could use to overwhelm this defence, but they seem reluctant to do so at the moment. Veterans of Osgiliath shooting in. The Dunedain Rangers are going to try and return fire in there, but the Veterans of Osgiliath, while the body piercing is effective against every unit really, just because of the volume that it hits, the Veterans of Osgiliath are very heavily armoured and shielded, so they'll be a little bit more resilience to that sort of thing than most other units will be. These Gondor infantrymen have actually made a little bit of a dent in this front line. Oh dear. So there is a way up here then, there must be. He must have climbed up here. And this is going to allow the Imladris Guardians to catch them in melee. Veterans of Osgiliath can hold their own in melee, but not against Imladris Guardians. Meanwhile, I don't think this front line has moved all that far either. Indeed it hasn't, it's still very much in the same place. But more and more Dol Amroth soldiers have been committed forward. The Anubis Gate Guards and the Warns of the North are still here, albeit slightly more depleted. The Dunedain Trollslayers using their Javies. The Heru Quinga also there. A second unit of Dunedain Peacekeepers have come down to shore up the front line, and that should be enough to make sure this front line does hold in place. The Belfast Marines must have used their ammunition because they're in melee as well, which it surprises me the Warns of the North and the Anubis Gate Guards are alive at all if the Belfast Marines came forward, because you'd think those javelins would have been enough to polish off that unit, but maybe not. Maybe they were going after the wrong targets yet again. Tirathea Marksman getting into position again. Again, another one of Dol Amroth's units which I find personally underwhelming, but that's the case for most of these sort of higher tier, more heavily armoured archers in 0.96.1. That will be very much different in 0.97. A unit like this will be much more efficient. But in this sort of situation where they're not really taking any sort of counter fire, their damage should be very much appreciated. But it's over here now, you can see more and more forces coming up here. Axemen of the Sarnak, Minotaur Roland Guardians, Belagair Archers. Will this front line be able to hold up? The Veterans of Osgiliath are over here. Axemen of the Sarnak are going around now. Eldarenway Heru Quinga getting some nice volleys in here, but now action is needed from the defenders if they're going to be able to hold off against this pretty substantial assault. The Hobbit Slingers and the Dunedain Trollslayers are in a pretty ideal position, to be fair, but the Belagair Archers have also noted them. Here come the Heru Makeel. And the Axemen of the Sarnak, with the armour upgrades, are a very good archer, but they're being shot in the side by Dunedain Rangers, and they're going up against one of the scariest heavy swordsman units in the game, in the Eldarenway Heru Makeel. So this is going to be a very one-sided fight. This flanking move has been rebuffed so far, but more could be sent that way. And you can see here the Axemen of the Sarnak are trying to take advantage of the little divot in the line that the Gondor infantry made. Once again, you can see the Dunedain Rangers are here. The Grey Company are getting into position as well, so this is the opportunity that the body-piercing Rangers have been waiting for. The Grey Company are getting very, very close once again to the Belagair Archers. Veterans of Osgiliath are here. Dol Ralph really exposing a lot of these units a little bit too readily for my liking. You need to be very careful with them to get the most out of them. Meanwhile, the Axemen of the Sarnak do charge in, but unfortunately the Imladris Guardians are there to shut the door in their face, and that's going to be no good for them. They need to commit forward more here, the attackers, I think. The Grey Company, meanwhile, are going to be firing in directly into this unit of Belagair Archers and killing off a lot of them. What are they firing at now? Numenorian Lancers? The Catapult, perhaps? Yeah, not in an ideal position here. I think Dolorel, if he was going to do this, he probably should have gone down and around, but now the Numenorian Lancers are coming forward. And I think they're going to retreat now, which is good to see. Dunedain Trollslayers getting into place. The Hobbit Slingers still doing their thing. Still, again, these Axemen of the Sarnak, they are wavering. We are actually past the halfway point, so let's actually have a look at the percentage of kills. So the defenders are ahead by 10%, but as we've seen in the past, the attackers come good in the late game, generally speaking. And now the Numenorian Lancers are in behind the enemy lines with nothing really to stop them. The Grey Company will try and shoot them down. These Dunedain Rangers, that might be the end of them, but yeah, these Numenorian Lancers could actually die to the Grey Company if they keep taking volleys like that. If it comes down to a pure melee fight, the Numenorian Lancers, despite being Lancers, will still win, because Horse Archers, with a few exceptions, not the finest in melee either. Although they are Rangers, so maybe the skill will be enough. We shall see. I mean, yeah, these Numenorian Lancers are actually wavering. They've gone with the on-rushing Eldarenway. They want to get out of there. That could have been the moment for the Lancers, but they didn't. They didn't charge into the rear of that infantry, which would have yielded good results. Those Imladris Guardians would have taken a lot of damage, and unfortunately now the Axemen are starting to rout the Eldarenway, chasing those black Numenorians off. Heru Makeel in position, and still this thin front line holds on. There are the Dunedain Trollslayers. Still the attackers eager to use their, again, substantial skirmish presence, but I I think the time comes when you need to try and use a bit of brute force, because the defenders are still holding on to their initial choke points. The attackers still haven't really made any substantial gains yet. And the Dunedain Peacekeepers over here, Dole Amrot's infantry not having the best of times, still Arthedain holding them at bay. However, here comes a few units which are a little bit more impressive. The Tharbad Warhammers are getting in here, and they're going to charge into the side of the Peacekeepers. Despite not being that heavily armoured, Tharbad Warhammers are still a stronger unit than the Dunedain Peacekeepers, and also with the support of those Wardens of Tir and Gorthad, could be the presence on the front line they've been needing for a while, and the Dunedain captains. So Loki Motive clearly has had enough of this nonsense. He's going to send forward his elites and hope that that is going to be enough to finish this fight. There's also the Haven Knights, which they need to be a little bit careful of the stakes. As long as you walk through the stakes, they will not kill your horses. I don't know how many people know that, but as long as you're not charging, the stakes won't kill your horses, they'll be harmless. And now the Haven Knights could be used very effectively on the assault, on the attack as well. The Haven Knights obviously extremely tanky, extremely difficult to get rid of. They need to be careful though, because there is a second bank of stakes here. And Imrahil is not in this unit, however, but I mean there are spears. Is this going to be enough to break this front line? It could very well be. Again, they need to walk through the stakes if they're going to go that way. I think they're eager to break this front line, but the Wardens of the North won't break. And there are pikes over here, so the Haven Knights do need to be a little bit wary of that. What's happening over here? Ah, they're retreating, are they? The Grey Company are certainly routing. Yeah, they're actually abandoning this position at this point, so they're going to retreat. This would be the opportunity actually for the attackers to be way more aggressive and punish them for this, but the Númenórean Lancers not ready to do so yet. They're going to retreat all the way to the town centre, I think. So over here, I mean, again, this should have been. The attackers should have forced the defenders' hands sooner, I think, to do this, because with a little bit more pressure, with a few more elites, Gondor and Umbar, that front line would have been much less scary. Like Fountain Guard, Citadel Guard, you know, with how few men they had on the front line. Instead, a couple of units of Axemen of Lasarnak and a unit of Gondor infantry was lost. What is this? A numerous gate guards? Are they being kept behind? Ooh, this is, yeah, I was going to say that would be a kamikaze from the Umbar general. Now the Illuminous Gate Guards are going to be sort of forming the rear guard. Could try and charge the rear of the pikes, but oh dear, that was suicide. That entire unit melted. Trying to rear charge them, but Doloralf wise to that, and the entirety of the Númenórean Lancers are now gone. Manatar Roman Guardians are in position, however, so they could make the Illuminous Gate Guards pay a little bit for that. Unless they manage to charge out of range, which I think they're going to be able to manage. Although they're not actually. Very, very substantial chunk of that unit gone. I was just noticing this guy up here. He's retreating. He's in the hills. Luminous Gate Guards are going to be able to get away with the rest of their unit, however. And what have we got going on over here? So yeah, I think it's going to be a full retreat at this point. Yeah, the Tharbad Warhammers, the Dunedain Peacekeepers. So this front line actually did sort of crumble away, and it's now going to be a case of the final stand. How will the attackers choose to approach this? There's going to be a lot of elites here. It's going to be a hard nut to crack. I mean, a lot of the Imladris forces in particular are still going to be here. A lot of the Imladris pikemen. There's still that High Elven catapult, which they've got to worry about. Interesting. A lot of Arthedain's forces have been eaten into a little bit, but again, as I always said, here in the late game, where the melee fight becomes a little bit more important, it was always going to be Imladris, the scarier of the two. It's going to be interesting. I mean, the attackers, you would still back them because they've still got a lot of elites. I mean, particularly from a Gondorian perspective, they committed basically none of their elites. Umbar have still got a lot of their elites left, a lot of their Castamir's Legion, and you know, Dol Amroth as well. And Cardlan only committed forward their elites when the defenders were thinking about retreating. So we have a look at the percentage of kills. It is a little bit closer at this point. Only 6% in it now in favour of the defenders, and I'm not sure. I think you have to back the attackers in this sort of situation. They've got a lot of resources available to them. Imladris are very powerful in melee, but this is a lot. This is a lot for them to have to deal with. But I think a little cut is in order. while we wait for the attackers to move into position, because it's a long old road for them to get into a position where they can assault the town centre. So yeah, a cut it will be. So here we go. The Haven Knights are going to be leading the way, which is bold, I must say, because they're going to be charging right into a glut of elite forces, although, to be fair, I mean, not really. A very well put together front line here. I mean, considering the amount of time the defenders have had to sort of form up some sort of front line, you would think they'd do a little bit better than that. However, the Haven Knights, very rare you'll see them shaken, but in sustained melee with Dunedain Troll Slayers, with the huge AP damage they can do, it's unsurprising the Haven Knights are sent packing. Also javelins as well. Meanwhile, down here, you can see that the catapult from Gondor is going to be the target, I think, of the Eldaranway Haru Quinker, so this will give the Elven artillery impunity. Yeah, they are going after the catapult crew, and there's really not many of them left. This catapult over here is moving on its own. Fascinating. That Gondorian technology. Only 7 of them left now, though. And they've only just got enough to actually man each piece at this point. Another volley might be enough to kill off enough to the point where they have to abandon one of them. And I think they will. I think that's enough to actually sort of force one of the pieces to be abandoned. So that is most unfortunate from an attacking perspective. However, there is a price to be paid for this, and that is a lot of the manpower from this unit of Eldaranway Haru Quinker, because the Minotaur Roman Guardians and the veterans of Osgiliath have been shooting them while they've been trying to kill that catapult, and that's obviously going to take away quite a lot of manpower from that unit. Meanwhile, still the attackers are going to be eager to use their skirmish power, which is not surprising at all, because they still have a lot of ammunition left in some of their units, whereas the defenders at this point looking a little bit thin on the ground. That is often what can be a bit of a problem when you're outnumbered by 2 armies. The attackers can simply bring enough ammunition to make you defending a point that much more tricky, that much more difficult. It might even be worth the defenders' time to try and counter-attack. It would be risky, and if it failed, you would lose the game for sure. But I feel as though that's better than just sitting up here on the summit of the mountain and being shot. I feel as though being a little bit more proactive is the way to go about this. But we'll see. I mean, they do still have the catapult after all. You know, they want to obviously coax the attackers into blobbing up onto one of these choke points and then using their catapult to kill off huge amounts of men very, very quickly. We shall see, however. Here we can see the Miniscarithan sharpshooters trying to get into position to get some cheap kills, and obviously the Citadel Crossbows have been one of the factors in this battle which the defenders, I think, have actually struggled to deal with. Obviously that shot is going to be cancelled. Yeah, a little bit of a lull in proceedings as the Haven Knights, I think, are going to try their luck once again at charging in, as the vast majority of this infantry starts to move into position as well. Dol Amros's forces with what's left of Cardan's army as well. Again, there's still the Talon Knights, there's still the Haven Guard, there's still enough elites from all the attacking forces that I don't really fancy the defenders' chances in melee either, to be honest with you. You know, when you think of the Wardens of the White Tower, the Nimlothian Honour Guard, all of the units of Castamir's Legion, the Haven Knights, the Talon Knights, or Haven Guard I should say, the Tharbad Warhammers, the Dunedain Captains, Wardens of Tirn Gorthad. It's a lot, and they've still got numbers as well, which is worrying. Meanwhile, this unit of veterans of Osgiliath is getting a little bit gung-ho. The Haru Quinker are no slouches in melee. When it comes to a one-on-one fight, might be a little bit difficult for the veterans of Osgiliath. There's Boromir once again with his round shield. There are some Dunedain Rangers who are going to give some covering fire to them on the retreat. Not too much of a concern for them, I would think, however. They could be shot up on the retreat as well. I mean, the veterans of Osgiliath at this point are in, unless the Haru Quinker are out of ammunition. Boromir and his men fearlessly charging in. Although, to be fair, I mean, how much manpower do they actually have back here? A fair amount. Yeah, Fountain Guard as well, that was something I missed out. Blackguards. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tricky. But here we go. The start of the assault, and this is going to be where things hot up very, very quickly as Cardan lead the way with the support of all of those Dol Amroth pikes as well. The pikes marching in formation, the Imladris Guardians moving in to try and hold this front line. The Troll Slayers are here, and they will be able to do substantial amounts of damage pretty quickly. The Haru Hatal are also going to be holding the front line, but more is needed than this now for the defenders. They need to send more reinforcements over here to hold this line, and they are doing so, which is good to see. Eldaranway Haru Hatal and Imladris sentries heading in to try and hold these front lines. This Dol Amroth just surges forward like a blue tide, really. And the Dunedain captains are starting to leak around the side. I think this is where the defenders start to fall apart, honestly. They really weren't ready to deal with this sort of thing, and that surprises me, honestly, because here in the late game, I know, you know, what most people will say is that they're just trying to avoid the arrows and the crossbows by standing near, but they needed to be near enough to reinforce quickly, because this was always going to happen eventually. The attackers were always going to come forward in force. There are the Haven Knights as well. Dol Amroth and Cardolan fighting side by side to try and deal with the Imladris forces. And there are the Dunedain Trollslayers doing a lot of damage, as the Haven Knights are trying to sort of squeeze their way through, and they could cause some havoc. There goes the Cardolan General there. What could also backfire for the attackers is the fact that those Gondor and Umbar forces are still a little bit too far away. They need to be laying siege to this area up here as well to sort of make sure the defenders don't have the resources to sort of focus on one choke point at a time, because that Cardolan General fell away pretty quickly. And that's because the Dunedain captains were immediately collapsed on by the Warns of the North and the Eldarenway Harry McKeel, so that's a good response there from the defenders. Meanwhile, we have over here some Gwaithir Myrdain and the Dunedain Trollslayers now pulling back. The Citadel Guard are over here. I mean, Umbar and Gondor need to hurry up because, well, the Haven Knights are back here now. The Haven Knights get a charge. They're not a unit of Lance Knights, however, they are melee Knights, so they won't get huge amounts of damage. In fact, the Knights of Numinous just held firm in the face of that charge. And now with the Harry McKeel also, this could be the end for the Haven Knights, which will be a good catch for the defenders. Here come the Trollslayers, here come Pikes, here comes... yeah, this is the end. There's no way they're going to try and force their way out of here. It's going to be the end of the Dol Amroth Knights. Meanwhile, some crispy corpses there. What happened to the catapult crew? There they are, trying to avoid the Haven Knights, I would imagine. The other unit of Numinous Gate Guards coming in to try and shut the door in the face of this assault. Here we go. There is a danger here that the attackers could run out of manpower. Again, where are the Gondorians and the Umbar forces? The Dunedain Trollslayers defeat seems certain against the Citadel Guard. They are now moving in, which is good to see, but there's still these forces ready to reinforce the front line. It's going to be close. I mean, if the catapult can get some good hits, the defenders could very well win this, but without that I still feel as though the overall numbers will probably be enough to overcome the primarily at this point Imladris defence. And the Dunedain captains starting to get a hold on this battle over here as well, alongside the Tharbad Warhammers, the elites, proving their worth in melee. Harry Winger as well. You can see the Grey Company, only 2 of them left, but can you imagine what a full unit of Grey Company would be doing to this front line at this point? Ah, it's Kuro playing Medieval 2. Dunedain Trollslayers also looming into position, but here we go. It's very annoying, the position of that arch, because it means I'm not going to be able to get the fully cinematic angles I want. But with this large assault at this point, I think the attackers are going to have enough. I think they're going to be able to pull through. Dismounted Knights of Numinous are also going to charge on in there, but that's only going to hold them up for so long. I think the God Helene going to be reloading, shooting at point blank. I think they're going to need more, however. Another unit of Imladris Guardians are going to come over here. The problem, I think, is going to be just the sheer amount of Fountain Guard they're going to have to deal with. Neither of them are really in a position to be able to do that. Dunedain Rangers, so more body piercing. They could stop this assault over here, the defenders, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop the other one. The Dunedain Trollslayers also being focused by the Belfalas Marines. I mean, yeah, this assault over here I can see them stopping. But it's the other side. Will they be able to stop the Gondorians and the Umbar forces from just pushing their way through? Here come the Imladris sentries.
The enemy are badly bloodied. They have lost half their men.
All the Gondorians in there. That's what primarily worries me here, as I've said. The Fountain Guard, the Nimlothian Honour Guard, the Wardens of the White Tower, all backed up by Castamir's Legion. That's nasty. Very nasty. Crossbow Corsairs and Blackguards are still here. The Minotaur Roman Guardians still have ammo. The Catapult is depleted but not dead, which again could be very key. I'm not really sure what the High Elven Catapult is doing. It needs to get into a position where it can get at least one shot off. Here come the Gwaithir Myrdain, stopping this Castamir's Legion unit from pushing their way through. And of course, if something can stop the Castamir's Legion, it's going to be the Smiths of Eregion, as they used to be called. There are the Imladris sentries trying to hold down the centre of this line, but you can see here the Abrazani Narduza Guard starting to push around the sides of this front line. Harrowquinger. The time has come to commit everything now from the defenders. They've been a little bit lethargic, I think. I mean, a lot of these units back here are just doing nothing. If they still have ammunition, then they should use it on something. If they don't, then they need to charge in and get into melee. Dunedain Trollslayers getting in here. Here are the Eldaranway Harry McKeel starting to kill off these crossbowmen. The Hobbit Slingers still doing what they can to try and help out the mighty Elven warriors in melee. The Imladra Sentry. So yeah, victory seems certain over here. But yeah, this is where the lethargy of the defenders is going to cost them. This unit of Harrowquinger needed to charge in there far sooner to guard this hole that had appeared in their lines. But now Blackguards are already in here. They are being shot up, but it's not a good sign. Athelian Rangers are also coming in here, so Gondor did bring their Rangers as well. Imladra Sentries are moving in. The God Helm are trying to shoot, but yeah, I think overall the manpower of the defenders is just not going to be up to the level they need it to be in order to actually win this battle. As the rain continues to pour. Here comes the Imladra Sentries, but more and more Umbar forces are starting to pour in. The Athelian Rangers might not have even used their ammunition at this point, but they're just being used as infantry at this stage because why not? Overwhelming force at this point is the name of the game. And the crossbow corsairs, if they get like one volley off down this line, it's going to be absolutely brutal. Which is probably why the Imladra's pikes are so going to try and be so quick to respond. God Helm is still firing away. Oh, there's that crazy death animation which causes the unit to go crazy and then T-pose into the ground. Even Dol Amroth could win over here. I mean, Imladra should be able to hold back this force long enough to actually pull out the win. The Hobbits as well in support, but the real problem is going to be over on this side, of course. The Athelian Rangers are sort of pouring into the settlement. There's still just over 5,000 frames left to go though, so the defenders are still going to hold on for a pretty substantial amount of time. Here comes the pride and joy of the Gondorian army, the Fountain Guard. The protectors of the White Tree. They're going to be charging in there, and they're going, well, charging in there. They're going to be grinding down the Elven resistance in combination with their hated enemies, really, in Umbar with the Castamir's Legion. The Athelian Rangers are trying to capture the town centre to force a response, which is going to pull this unit of Eldaranway Harrowquinger away from the front line for a time. There's the Grey Company. Oof. The attacking catapult at this point trying to snipe out the High Elven catapult. If there is a slim hope left, it will be bound up in that artillery piece. Well, the Eldaranway Harrowquinger still slowly but surely trying to mulch their way through the sharpshooters. My question would be, where did the Haven Guard go? Now here they are, right in the thick of things, right up against both the Gate Guards and the Sentries, which is not really where they want to be. Hence why they haven't really won this front line for Dol Amroth and Cardler. Horns of the North are still there as well, fighting off against the Halberdiers. The Athelian Rangers are going to break off. Harrowquinger are going to come back over here, but here you can see another unit which has gotten in behind. Jesus Christ, this announcer. Another unit which has managed to get in behind the enemy lines, the Wardens of the White Tower, the Gondorian General right on the front line. They're actually managed to push their way through Gwaithir Myrdain as well. The problem here at this point is just one of numbers. Of course, the Gwaithir Myrdain probably the strongest unit of line infantry that there is on the field at this point, but there's simply not enough of them. Dismounted Knights of Luminous, along with the Imladra Sentries, a very thin line at this point, having to hold back the Steel Tide from Gondor. Over here, the crossbow corsairs also just being used in melee, as well as the now presumably out of ammunition Minotaur Roman Guardians, pulling out those, becoming heavy billmen essentially, getting into melee, helping out against the Harrowquinger. There are the Corsair Blackguards, and still the attacking catapult trying to. Finally, we can see a defensive catapult shot, and it just falls short. That could have been so brutal as well if it went right down the line of that Fountain Guard, but it just wasn't to be. Again, that could be a potentially huge catapult shot as well. One of the most devastating I've ever seen. That could have been, but in the end, second try at it, and again just falling short. There goes the Arthedain General. There's Imrahil, running through one of his companions. There's the Harry McKeel. Imrahil just right in the thick of things here, along with the Arthedain General, but the Haven Guard proving that they are the better swordsmen. They managed to get one of the catapults, but I don't know if that was what they were actually aiming for. As the Fountain Guard pour in as well. Oh, hello, Blackguards. Reloading. I think the Wards of the White Tower are in here over against the God Helym at this point. Indeed they are. The God Helym can really hold their own in melee, but again, numbers. The Wards of the White Tower are also one of the finest infantry units in the game, so the God Helym would do well if they were to win that, but the problem is, of course, it's not going to be a 1v1 for much longer. The Nimlothian Honour Guard will surely be on the way at any moment. And meanwhile, what's left of the Elven Pikes and Elven Infantry being cut down. Fountain Guard also on the way over to help out against this line over here, so Imrahil will survive this fight, I think. Well, I say that. He's right in here against Alderaan, Harry McKeel and Wardens of the North, and he's basically all on his own. But he is here. Will he survive?
The enemy is no longer in command of the city.
He's taking damage. He's taking hits, and there he goes. So close and yet so far to being able to claim he survived. The Fountain Guard were just moments away from helping out as well. The Citadel Guard are over here, the Nimlothian Honour Guard are over here. So the Ones of the White Tower may actually go one-on-one with the God Helym for the rest of the match. Obviously this battle's been a bit of a foregone conclusion for a while at this point, but it's going to be within 10%. So it does go to show how hard the defenders actually did fight. And again, maybe with a few tweaks, maybe if they used their rangers a little bit more wisely, the defenders, maybe they could have pulled out the victory here, because rangers can easily make up 10% in a battle like this. You've seen in the past them get 2,000 kills sometimes. That's the sort of limit of what they're capable of. That would have been enough to turn this battle around. There's really nothing left over on this front line anymore. The Castamir's Legion, what's left of the Umbar army smashing through. I would assume that's the Cardlan army there. Or maybe Dol Amroth? There goes the Gondorians. Can't be the Gondorians after all. No, it is the Cardlan army. Their low morale ultimately proving to be their undoing. Is Dol Amroth still on the field though? I don't think Dol Amroth has anything either. They have the odd one unit. Yeah, and at this point the Elves aren't going to be able to take this back with all of the Castamir's Legion, the Abrazanim, and of course the Fountain Guard. Meanwhile, this epic duel between two very elite units, the God Helym and the Ones of the White Tower. The Ones of the White Tower were going to win that, which again, there goes the Elven General. Doesn't surprise me too much. The Ones of the White Tower, after all, dedicated infantry unit, one of the strongest. It's exactly the sort of thing Gondor are good at. And the God Helym are also a little bit depleted as well. But support is here from the Belagaea Halberds. So that's Cardlan and Dol Amroth. So Cardlan and Dol Amroth were killed off. There are the Hobbit Slingers. One of the last units left alive are the Hobbit Slingers. That's fitting, I think. A lot of hard work from the Arthedain army was done by the brave Hobbits. But Umbar and Gondor are going to be the last armies left standing. They're going to be able to claim dominion over these dwarven ruins. Looks almost like a sort of expanded version of this top area could be used for something like Weather Top, I imagine. Which is not a map I've actually seen. That might be something that someone could make for 0.97 at some point. We shall see. There's a lot of good new maps coming to 0.97, not least of which the Ruins of Dol Guldur, which Indie Pride will be doing at some point soon, a video on that, which is good to hear. Castamir's Legion victory seems certain. Heru McKeel as well, shaken. Not often you see a unit of Alderaan shaken. Belagaea Halberds are just sort of hunting down what remains of the God Helym. I think the Heru McKeel are going to be maybe the last ones. I mean, they've got nowhere to route to anyway. They're in the town centre, so they're just going to have to fight and die against the Castamir's Legion, ultimately. I do love the look of the Castamir's Legion as well. You can see the Númenórean heritage, but they've got their own style distinct from Gondor. Yeah, there's only two of them left, just absolutely eviscerated here by the Umbar forces, and that is going to leave the God Helene to be the final unit left standing, the Elven General unit. And they are going to be poked down by the Halberds, it seems. The support of the Wardens of the White Tower as well, the Gondorian General charging in here. It's only a matter of time now. They're not even flinching in the face of those pokes that they're taking though. Oh, point blank. Brutal. There is no escape, however, for Arsal at this point. And the defenders ultimately will not have victory here today, but it was very close. 9% is very close, particularly with a 2-army difference between the two teams. And particularly seeing as I think the attackers brought a good composition to deal with what was in front of them. A lot of skirmishers, a lot of cheap skirmishers, which admittedly is something about 0.96 that I'm not really a fan of. The fact that you can bring them and they'll almost always be worth it. But that will change for 0.97. This battle may very well have gone very differently in 0.97 even. But here in 0.96, good choice of composition from the attackers. They didn't do an awful lot wrong. I feel as though they could have actually ended this battle sooner.
We have nothing to be ashamed of. It was but a cruel twist of fate that snatched victory from our grasp.
Well, I mean, certainly you can see the amount of kills relatively even for all of the attackers, with Gondor getting just the more, which I feel like is fairly fair. Umbar getting the least, but then they only really committed forward a huge glut at their infantry in the final phases of the battle, so again, and then Cardlin and Dol Amroth almost identical. Cardlin only getting 2 more kills. Arthedain getting more kills than Imladris, and again, Imladris had most of their infantry at the back when things started to go downhill for them, whereas Arthedain, obviously, stuff like the Hobbit Slingers, Dunedain Trollslayers used earlier in the fight when things were looking a little bit more rosy for the defenders. Let's have a look at what did the damage for Imladris. Let's see who the MVP was for his army. I think, looking at this, 280 on the Gwythi Arthan, so the early unit of elites that were early elite unit that was committed forward, ended up being the one that got the most kills. A few other units which broke 200 as well. Noritin Warriors, Eldawen Haru Quinga, the archers, of course. In the late game, stuff like the Imladris sentries and the Gwythi Mirdain just weren't able to lay down their effectiveness because they simply didn't have the numbers to. The attackers had too many men, and they attacked from both sides reasonably in a coordinated fashion, which the defenders were never going to be able to deal with at that point. So, very well played to all the players involved. Big thank you to Arsal for sending this replay to me. And of course, like I said previously, there will be a channel update on the way. I think this battle should be released over the weekend at some point. Whenever it is, the day after, there'll be a little channel update video, I think, just to sort of detail what's going to be happening in the near and possibly distant future as well, with regards to what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. But there will also, of course, be more content following on from that from Reforged as well. I've got a few battles to be getting on with. I think I'll be doing a free-for-all on 0.97, a sort of preview that Kuro sent me between various human factions to just sort of, again, showcase 0.97, just to sort of let people know that it is on the way still. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this, and hope you'll join me for whatever is next.